Hey folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here, and welcome to a late day edition of the Tic Toc Diner. We got a couple of special guests today, and they are repeat guests. So it should be very interesting to have a fun, casual conversation today. But before we do that, we do need to go ahead and get into one of my favorite Tuesday items as far as our Task Force Minute is concerned. We're going to be talking a little bit about the diesel for a sec. If I can ever get this thing to run. For the Freight Fraud Task Force, the Lounge Media Group presents the Task Force Minute, hosted by the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera. For those out there who follow me on a regular basis, you know that usually on Tuesdays, particularly on my LinkedIn, I do start posting the numbers for the Department of Energy, and today is going to be no different. Instead of posting it on LinkedIn, however, I do try to bring it up here on my show since I moved to Tuesdays. The numbers for this week, we saw diesel increase this week. Last week, it was a decrease of around 9 cents. This week, it was a sharp spike of almost 20 cents per gallon on the U.S. average for diesel. Guys, fuel's getting more expensive, which coincides with what a lot of economists were thinking is going to happen, especially since the issues over in the Middle East have yet to subside. So until that happens, we can expect those numbers to continue to increase. And that is your Task Force Minute. This has been another Task Force Minute. Be sure to like and subscribe on all of our social media. And whatever you do, don't let scammers take you for a ride. I love that music. I almost feel like a mafia don. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the main part of our show. Grab a menu and have a seat. Your server's going to be right with you here at the Tic Toc Diner. For the Freight Fraud Task Force, the Lounge Media Group presents the Tic Toc Diner podcast, serving up freight fraud with a side of prevention. Here is your host, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera. You know him, you love him, you see him here on a regular basis. We got Michelle and Avanti hanging out with us today, and we've got a lot of fun things going on. Michelle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's Tuesday. We're past Monday. Now we get to look forward to Friday. So, it's first off, I feel like eating a pizza after listening to that music. Very Italian. I really like it.
Well, I've got family who are willing to make you an offer you can't refuse.
I hear you. I hear you.
So, it's always fun. We also have Avanti, good old CDL Shorty, as everyone knows him. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. You say pizza, it's Taco Tuesday for me.
Oh, it's tacos for you.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I had the Mexican bug last night. I was really craving some chips and salsa last night, like there was no tomorrow. But that's neither here nor there. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys here is that as most of you know, I have joined a new media group that just launched, a new morning show that's out there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, called Do You Even Freight? I hope you guys are checking that out. That's at kissthismedia.com. It's also out there on the YouTube channel and LinkedIn as well. So please be sure to check that out. With that being said, however, they have another new show that just launched today, premiered today, called The Voice. And Michelle is kind of ducking her head out of the side to show the logo. And it is another creation of Kiss This Media, and it's basically an interview series that Michelle is hosting. And, Avanti was her first guest. And I almost let the cat out of the bag on Friday about that.
Yeah.
I know my producer over at Kisses Media is probably still a little flustered with me about that. But that's neither here nor there. Michelle, let's start off with you real quick. How did you get involved with your voice?
Oh, this is a great story. I was asked by you, John, to join you on your first, I think, kickoff episode of Do You Even Freight, right? So every host was supposed to invite a little guest to be on for like 15 minutes, and you showed up with me. So you got me. And then we had a great time, had great conversation, really good content. And afterwards, Tammy had reached out to you. That's our mother, the producer. And
yes, we call her mother. I know it's weird.
Yeah, it's not weird now. I used to call her Yoda, and now I'm just into like mother. I think you know what I think of? I'm a little sidebar when I say mother. I think of you know that movie Aliens? They used to call it mother. Yeah. She's like the thing. Anyway, so Tammy reached out. Thank you, Tammy, and said that there was this show that she was producing and she needed a host, and liked my energy. Said I, felt comfortable in front of a camera. Shocker. And so we just started talking, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then, of course, I got into the formal setting. It was like, hi, this is Michelle Hutchison. I felt a little bit like Shimmy that first series. She's like, you did good. You really did good, but we need to loosen you up. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get there.
So how many takes did that intro? What did it take for you to get the intro? It took 3 takes.
3. That's not bad. She said it might take me 10. I was like, oh, hell no. No, I'm a perfectionist. No, it's just not taking 10. So we got it on the third one, which was great. And it felt better. So we have our next interview at the end of this week. Not going to say who it is yet. But yeah, I'm so honored, and I'm so blessed. And you know me, I like being in front of the camera, and I like talking. So this is perfect. Whether it's camera or stage, I'm in for it.
How can I help?
Stage.
That
was very timely there, Avanti.
That's a great question. A lot of people have asked me that. How can I help? Therapists even asked me that. How can I help? I don't know.
So how did Avanti become your first guest?
So Avanti and I met via your show. What was it, about a month or so ago? And we were talking about the carrier broker relationship, which I am a huge supporter of. And Avanti was in the comments, and then we connected through LinkedIn. We had a phone call. We really stand 10 toes down on this whole improving the industry and improving the relationship between two different pillars of our industry, right? But you have to remember, we have to act as one. And so we had a really good conversation. We kicked it off, and I said to Tammy, she has a whole list of people that want to be on the show. I'm super excited. But I said, no, we need to have CDL Shorty on the show because he is making a huge impact in our industry. He's headed to Washington. He's fighting for good drivers, good carriers. And that's what I said. I want him on the show. And she was like, I'm in. So Tammy was awesome. And that's how we ended up on my first show. And it was good because we've developed a friendship and a respect for each other in this industry. So for me, it was very comfortable. I felt, obviously I was talking to a friend. And I think for me, that really broke the ice and made it easier for me. So yeah, it was a little bit about me too, just so you know, Shorty. But it was awesome. I really appreciated it.
I can tell you it is much easier when you're already comfortable with the other people who are on stage. When you're trying to do an interview, it definitely makes life a lot easier because you're not worried about impressing people so much. They're already your friends, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really happy about today, and why when I was asked to go ahead and delay this from our usual start time, yeah, no problem, because I'm hanging out with friends. It's cool. Okay, so Avanti, your turn, buddy. It's been about a month or so since I last had you on my show. What is new for you lately?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Miss Michelle. The friendship for actually having and building a friendship with me, versus, some other freight brokers that might, think they sit high on a pedestal and don't want to talk to a driver, let alone a CDL instructor. So that was very big, for me on that behalf, because it made me really truly feel accepted, within the whole trucking industry. So I definitely want to say thank you for that utmost respect as well, Miss Michelle. And for me to be your first guest, that was an honor. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't already checked it out, go check it out. It's full of gifts. It's full of gems. Make sure you pick them up. But also for me, it's just, focus on going to Washington, focus on building relationships, focused on efficient training, and just focused on making this trucking industry better for the overall driver, freight broker, freight forwarder, logistics personnel, just, trying to leave it better than the way we found it.
Have you been to Washington at all in the last month since we first talked?
I have not. No, this will be my first time. I'll be there September the 11th. I'm flying in the night of the 10th, and I'll be flying out the midday on the 12th.
Well, it's a serendipitous day that you're going to be there. That's the 25th anniversary of
Yes.
the attack on the Pentagon and the Twin Towers.
Yes.
So what is going on that day in Washington?
Well, first of all, I definitely will pay my respects, to all of the fallen heroes, firemen, and of course, everybody that was involved in that horrific situation. So I definitely pay my respects, take a moment of silence. But also, for those of you guys who don't know out there, Pink Cheetah is in a lawsuit, if you will, with a famous freight brokerage out there, and I've spoken to her, and like I told Miss Michelle, I don't want to hijack her platform or anything like that, but this is all about Pink Cheetah and broker transparency, and I'm just there to support. If she asks me to speak, I'll speak, but other than that, I'm just there to stand in the background or stand alongside her and support.
Well, that's fantastic. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit on broker transparency. And I'm sure the brokers that are out there are like, oh, dear God, why are we talking about this again? But it's an important topic. We know that it really did not become prevalent until the last few years, once we got to the height of the freight recession. That broker transparency really became a hot topic. And when we're referring to broker transparency, we're talking about 49 CFR 371.3 Charlie. Now, you are a huge, passionate person about this, Avanti. What does that regulation say?
Well, it clearly states that if a carrier, decides to do business with a certain freight broker, that they will have 48 hours to turn over all records between carrier, shipper, and broker, to really see and break down the profit margins. But for me, the conversation, it's been, real prevalent the past couple of years. But for me, the conversation has kind of went quiet or per se dormant amongst carriers. Now that the market has somewhat flipped to a carrier's market, you don't really hear a lot of carriers talking about it as much anymore. And I find that kind of strange. So, my new question is, do we really care? Or were we, the carriers, the drivers, being crybabies at a certain point in time? Because in 2020, we didn't care, but, when the market took a dip, we somewhat, started to care. But one thing I will say is, whether we care or not, or who cares, or who's crying, or blah, 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 whether it's the broker or the carrier or the driver, what I would say it has done is opened up a can of worms as far as a good conversation that needs to be had on both behalves.
Well, let me clear something up. real quick here for the audience at least. 49 CFR 371.3 Charlie gives any party to a broker transaction access to the documents that a broker is required to save as part of the main statute. That's the 49 CFR 371.3 Alpha and Bravo. So it does not specify the 48 hours that you mentioned, Avante. However, where that 48 hour where that comes in is in numerous proposals that have come out by the SBTC or other advocacy groups, identifying 48 hours as a reasonable time frame for brokers to be able to disclose that information to motor carriers or shippers, because shippers are a party to the transaction as well. And that's been something that's been very quietly, as you put it, it depends on the status of the market, whether or not it's been something that the drivers have actually cared about. It became prominence in 2023 when the market was really tanking, and we were seeing brokers regularly on social media bragging about how much money they were making on carriers' backs because of the low rates. And it really infuriated a bunch of drivers, as I recall. And from there, the topic really took off and gained a lot of momentum in the national line. And ever since then, every year since, FMCSA has been promising to issue guidance with regards to the CFR dealing with this issue. And every year they have kicked the can down the road. Now, Pink Cheetah is probably the most famous case surrounding that CFR because, one, it involves one of the big 3-letter brokerages that are out there, and being respectful, I just won't say their name. Well, excuse me. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you very much. And with regard to that, anywho, the sneezes were just crazy. The allergies are insane right now.
You're allergic to bullshit. That's all.
Yeah, I am. Thank you. So as that case played out over an order that came from FMCSA, TQL finally released the information on the load that they were talking about, and it turned out to be what, a 40% margin?
44
on a 44% margin on that particular load, which is kind of crazy. I'll say it's excessive. Now, whether or not that particular brokerage makes a habit of that kind of rate, we don't know, but it is widely rumored they do. But we'll see how that plays out. We know that Pink Cheetah is determined to press this as far as they can possibly go against TQL, to expose TQL for any abuses that they have been conducting against carriers. And let's face it, that brokerage does not have a great record. It just doesn't. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who drove around their headquarters in Cincinnati with a trailer that said, "Pay me my $8,000," as they drove it around the corporate parking lot.
Yeah.
So, but these things all brought attention to this one particular regulation, this one reg. And it seemed to gain a lot of importance. And as you pointed out, as the market flipped, that prominence seems to have gone away. How important, Avante, do you think that regulation really is in this day and age?
Well, to me, the conversation for me not only is about the regulation, but it's what surrounds the regulation. That's why I really try to come at this from an educational standpoint. I'm trying to put this in truck driving schools and all that. One reason why I'm trying to put it in truck driving schools is because you have a new truck driver that come into this industry, get their CDL in 4 to 5 weeks. And then they'll go to the mega carriers, stay with them for 6 months to a year, and then they'll buy their own truck. And next thing you know, they're on operator now, either independent or at least purchased, and then they have to go and deal with freight brokers like them because they accept new authorities and whatnot. But anyways, the conversation around it and what I mean by that is it'll open up a can of worms to words like indemnification, things like that. The verbiage within these contracts, these contracts, as Mr. Adam Wingfield would put it, it's like you're going to go buy a house and they give you a 60-page document, tell you to flip through it right quick, sign it, or they have another viewer coming in like 30 minutes. So it's really not fair, but I understand if you're working on the spot market, then, that's what it may call for. But in the same token, it's time for us as drivers to educate ourselves. So I feel like this will be a time for drivers, carriers, whatnot, to really have more education, a deeper education on what this all is surrounded about.
Do you anticipate that FMCSA is going to move forward with any kind of ruling whatsoever with regard to broker transparency here this year?
Hell no.
Folks, tell me how you really feel.
You guys let me know when I can jump in from a broker perspective.
Michelle, yes.
Please fire away.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna need a little education here because I don't understand the entire. I understand broker transparency, but riddle me this, because I'm a salesperson, right? So if I go out and I procure a driver for fair market value, but I make a 40% margin on a move because I sold it to the customer that way, not because I shortchanged the carrier, right? I paid you a really good rate. How is that a bad thing?
Well, you see, you're hitting the crux of the entire argument. I think most brokers out there stand on that particular hill. Okay,
I'm not standing. No, I'm not.
I quoted it. I quoted to the customer, and this is the market rate that it's actually going to the carriers for. It just happens to play in my favor. I'm not out there to intentionally screw a carrier, but I earned this, and I can see that. I can actually see, having been on both sides of the coin, I can see both sides.
Or what if, here's the other scenario. So you've got a driver, right, that needs that load, right? And because they either lost something else or they need a backhaul, because, again, you guys know I'm transparent. As a broker, when we quote out a job and we look at what the current market will sustain, and if I have X number of days, so it's all just a big calculation, I might post it lower. Say there's like 9 SUVs going from Michigan to California. I'm going to use real numbers here. And let's say the average cost to ship, because I remember when it was $900, is now $13, right? Just for an SUV, no stipulations, just an open rate. And I start that and I post that out there for 12, right? And a carrier's like, I'll take it. Am I undercutting the carrier because I started a hair lower, but they needed that in order to say get back to Michigan or to get back to California?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said it, and I'm glad you gave that example. So this, for me, this is where the conversation falls on 50-50. And the reason why I say 50-50 is the carrier / driver, if they're on operator or whatnot, this is where education comes in, number one. This is where negotiation skills come in on our behalf, number two, and not being so desperate, number three. There was a freight broker actually out there that I'm not going to say that person's name, but actually said that, hey, they picked up the phone and they called a bunch of carriers out there to quote a lane. And they found some carriers out there that gave them a good not good, a high / he said, fair price, fair quote, if you will. But then he found this one truck driver that was looking for gas money and took it. So that's on our behalf, number one. Then the flip side of it is you can't be a freight broker that, I understand sales and everything, and you might be like, well, if that carrier took it, then hey, I did my due diligence, but at the same time, you can't be God, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you prey on someone.
No.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of them are doing, especially the ones that
Okay.
stick up for broker transparency. Because some of the ones I've talked to and have conversations with, even last year, would say, okay, well, how am I wrong if carriers will take it for a lower price? You know what you're doing, number one. Then number two, what a lot of carriers do, what I what I used to do is wait until 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and see if that rate don't jump up. So
Now
that's the
let's
cat and mouse game that a
that's
lot of them play.
yes. I
Yeah.
see that, right? Because again, 18 years, you've seen a lot. And what I also see is that when I'm watching, because I'm watching the requests come in, my team is vetting the carriers, and I see like 7 carriers come in and go, I want that load at $1,200, $1,300. But then I see a carrier come in and go, no, I need 2,000. And it's like, right. So that's on the broker. We have to find out why. Now, I also want to say that brokers need to be transparent. Here's the thing. If your guy shows up at the dealership or wherever they're picking up and the car's not ready and they're waiting there and they're burning hours, like if you charge your customer detention time, you better give that to the driver. You don't get to keep that. So that's where I can see, and that happens in auto too. I can see where there's this discrepancy for the drivers and the brokers that are just shit out there. Stop it.
Not
It's not
only that, I know a freight broker personally. Me and this person, we're not friends. We've done some media stuff together, but this is where me and him kind of fell out because I take this seriously.
yeah.
He had a huge problem with not really identifying FTL and LTL
Mhm.
verbiage. So he tried to book a whole truck using FTL for 2 pallets, right? But in the same token, he wanted to chart when the carrier slash driver got there, it was actually turned out to be 6 pallets. He told the
Mm,
driver too. Now the driver's like, hey, you're adding more weight. Oh, I said FTL. I said full truckload. That's a bad attitude. And
yes.
that was one of the brokers that was for broker transparency. I mean against broker transparency. So
Mm-mm.
it's the cat and mouse game. You
Yeah,
understand? So
I get that.
but let me ask you this as a experienced freight broker and also you, Mr. John, would it be more beneficial if carriers actually knew their actual operating costs, the actual numbers up front, instead of saying, "Hey, I see this is posted for 2,000, give me 2,500." What when they haggle like that, what does that show you guys, or what does that tell you guys?
So I tend to ask a lot of questions, and when I talk, I have a little series I do called Behind the Hall, and it's about asking better questions, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
I have a driver that comes to me and says, I need 500 more than you've posted it for, I've worked with you guys in the past, I'll ask them why. I need to
Mm-hmm.
know why. I need to understand why you're telling me that. Well, fuel rates have gone up and cost of parts. This is all the stuff I used to hear. Food costs, it's all just more money. And I said, okay, but if I've taken into account that because now the rates are higher, why is it now $500 more just for you? Well, I have a hot shot. Okay, so what you're telling me is that you need more money because you have a smaller trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're trying to maximize the trailer and what you need. Maybe my unit's bigger, and so you have a 2-car hauler and you can only take 1 car. Let's negotiate that. If you're a good
Mm-hmm.
carrier and you're going to get it done quicker, I might pay you more. But
Mm-hmm.
it's about asking a lot of questions, because I do also know that there's a lot of greedy carriers. And I'm not saying drivers, there's greedy carriers out there.
Drivers too. Drivers too.
Drivers too, but greedy carriers that will, one, think I'm a dum dum, and two, they're not paying the driver. It's like the carrier,
Yeah.
the dispatcher's broking it. These dispatch houses, these dispatch companies that are representing multiple drivers, or, like other companies. It's like, I have seen that. It's not just the
Yes.
broker, it's the carrier too. They're not, if I pay a carrier more money, because they've had detention or a delay, or like, I don't know, I screwed up something, right? Like the Jeep had a 3-inch lift kit on it and a snorkel. I didn't know because I asked the client, right? Because they get mad at me. But now it's more weight. It's a little bit bigger. It's taller. Okay, I'm going to pay you more. I've asked the drivers in the past, and guess what? Those dispatchers who are representing, they don't pay the driver the money. They just tell the driver, okay, we're good to go. Take it.
And that's
That's not
why,
fair.
and that's why some shippers are on board with broker transparency too.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to talk to 2 small shippers here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and they both told me that they're for it because of that exact reason right there.
Yeah, I got no problem with being transparent. In fact, when you said opening our books and look at our margin, I've even said to clients, look, you can look at my margins overall. I'll give you an average margin that I've made from you. I might make 40% on a move because of circumstances, but there may be a move I did for you that I lost $300 because I gave you a guaranteed price. I'm not coming back to you like some brokers saying, hey, I need more money. If I screwed up the pricing, that's on me. I still got to get it moved. So I'm winning and I'm losing. And then there's an average.
Yes.
And I can come right out and tell you what my average is on my moves because I track it. You know what I'm saying? But we don't always win. We also lose. The good brokers understand that, hey, man, that's on me. I priced it. I fucked up. So I'm not going to take that out on the driver. That just happened to me this week. I mean, so yeah, you got it. Yeah, sorry, John, go ahead.
No. When I started dealing with broker transparency, for me, it wasn't about trying to determine what a margin was. I frankly never really cared about the margin because, as a lot of brokers would say, and I think a lot of drivers would agree, if the broker makes the money, the broker makes the money. We agree to a rate. Assuming the driver knows exactly what their costs are, then they have to be happy with the rate in order to agree to it in the first place. Michelle, you pointed out the issue about dispatch services and their lack of caring. Okay. I take personal offense to that only because I used to be a dispatch service myself and I was not that way. But
well, you were a good
to your
one.
point, there are a lot that are terrible at it, But my concern from a fraud standpoint was, and Michelle, you brought this up, detention, other accessorials, because I know when I was a shipper, if I had a truck sitting on my dock, the broker would be calling me and saying, hey, look, you have the truck is already there. You have 2 free hours and we're going to start charging you detention. And I'm like, okay. So I knew I had a clock I had to beat, and the broker damn sure was going to charge me detention. So I had to make sure I beat it, that way I could avoid a detention charge. Now, if the brokers are still acting the same way and they're damn sure charging their customers for detention, they damn sure better be paying the carrier the detention. And that is where I really got into the broker transparency fight. Are you actually collecting on the accessorial charge? And if you are you passing that on to the carrier?
Excellent.
That is the fairness, the fraud side that I chase after, that I want to make sure happens in this particular situation. So it's a balancing act. Either way you go. Yes, we have to negotiate our stuff. Yes, we need to know our costs in order to be effective in negotiating as a carrier, whether or not you want to be able to take a load. But again, you're going to have the occasional person here who comes in, as Michelle points out, and says, hey, I'll take that for $500 less, and then everyone says, okay, here you go. No problem. Now, does the Montgomery decision change the discussion now?
Oh, most definitely.
Michelle.
Oh, yeah, it really does. But the Montgomery decision is more about how did I pick that carrier, right? So therefore, I have to be able to show documentation if something happens about why we chose that carrier so that we're not held liable. That's my understanding.
Now,
right?
Let me lead this a little bit here,
Okay,
Michelle. Go. If a carrier comes in under market rate, okay, in order to get their hands on the load, Does that now beg the question, why are you coming in so low?
Yeah, look at the
How
little
can you
horns come out. Look at
afford yeah, yeah. How can you afford to do it that low? Is that a question that brokers should now be asking, which they didn't ask before Montgomery? Is that a question they should be asking now?
100%. And I absolutely agree with that because why would it, first off, why would any carrier or driver, independent driver, come to my board and go, I'm going to take that for less? I mean, seriously, there's something fishy there. And honestly, if you dig a little deeper, you're going to see why. They probably have a bad rating, probably have issues with their FMSC, their DOT, their all of it, right? There's a reason you're coming at me for the cheapo. And I don't go cheap. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm a little bougie. So what I will tell you is this though, for all these freaking dispatcher people out there, and I'm not talking about like John, what you did, because you were phenomenal. I've seen this one too, where it's already been assigned, but you priced it. I priced it so well, or my team priced it so well that you've got like 20, right? So you got a hot lane. You know that there's a bunch of drivers sitting there, kind of like Texas used to be, and they're waiting for stuff to be on the board. And I've had carriers, when I was dispatching years ago, text me because my number was out there and say, unassign it from that carrier and I'll take it for less. And I said, really? Would you like me to do that to you? Would you like me to screw you over? Because I don't think you would. That's called integrity. But I'll tell you what, I guarantee you there's shippers and brokers out there that do that too, that they cancel those loads because they think they're getting a deal. And that is some bullshit. That fries my ass right there. I hate that. Don't come at me and tell me to cancel it.
Oh yeah, there's many times I've been out there and called, being on the spot market, and call, you'll call a broker and you'll be like, hey, can you do it for this? And they'll be like, well, let me call you back, and then they'll call you, or you'll call them, and they'll be like, yeah, man, it got canceled. And you're like, it didn't get canceled. I know somebody else. I know what you did. It didn't get canceled.
Yeah. And the hard part is that when we really get cancellations, which we do get, I've had clients cancel on me because guess what? They go out and check the car, and all of a sudden there's like a check engine light, right? And we have to tell that carrier, sorry, the order did get canceled. Now they don't believe you. It's like, all you bad actors out there are creating havoc for all of us, good people.
Yeah.
John's laughing. I got so many stories. I said I'm going to write a book someday about all the stories I have about this industry and all the crap that happened. And all
I love it too. I love it. I love your stories. But to back up a little bit, like as far as, I got a chance to really talk to, like I said, two small shippers. But one that I talked to last year, one of the reasons why they told me they were for broker transparency was the specific fact of detention time. They said that they require in and out times on the bills. They go to the guard shack, make sure they're stamped, and they give them to the carrier. And there's been instances where three carriers and 2 drivers from those carriers came back a couple weeks later asking for their detention time pay. And that carrier, one was based out of Nebraska and the other one was based out of Texas. Both had put lawsuits on them. Now, that was last year. Haven't had a chance to really follow up, but that was a real conversation that I was able to have with that small shipper here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And that's what I mean by it's time for big to small shippers to get off the bench and start playing in the game. They have a voice. Also, if you're paying detention time and it's not being allocated in the way that you thought it would be, wouldn't you be upset as a shipper?
100%. 100%. Let's not forget about dry run and attempt fees. Do the drivers get those when they show up to to load, and all of a sudden it's not ready or it's not available, or guess what? The client didn't think you'd get a dispatch so fast. Are brokers, shippers, are you paying the dry run and the cancellation fees? Because I know that when I charge a client for a cancellation fee, a big part of that goes to the dispatcher, the carrier, or whatever. Yeah, the carrier. And
Yeah.
it's important that and again, it's like this hierarchy, right? If I charge the client and I make them aware, if you cancel, if it's not ready, you're gonna get charged. Like, I don't know how many times I got to say it. Now I just put it in writing. Then I
Yeah.
don't have to say it.
You're
But
talking about the tone news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like in it's probably different am I saying it different in freight? Because in auto,
Yeah, in auto it's a dry run. In general freight, it's TONU, TONU,
okay.
which is short for truck order not used. So I mean, it's the same thing though.
Okay. So I don't, and my whole thing is this. If my driver, my carrier shows up and the vehicle's not ready, something happened, they lied, I don't care what it is, and the client ends up paying that attempt fee or dry run fee, it better go, part of it or all of it better go to the driver. And I don't care if that driver, and I know there are brokers out there that'll argue like, well, you can go find something else. Well, guess what? That's their time. Now he's burning up more hours. But yeah, I don't care. Fill my spot and take my money, because you went to do the job, and it's not your fault, Mr. Driver, that it wasn't ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that I work for a carrier, wouldn't you? Because I like so much.
Well,
what really bothers me is how it's become so adversarial between brokers and carriers, particularly in the last few years. You know, there was a time in this industry where we worked together. Actually, there was a time when a broker their central focus was actually a carrier, not a shipper. You know, that all started to change around 2012, and now brokers are shipper centric, which has opened the door for these dispatch services to come in and fill that gap to be carrier centric in terms of who they support. So that's kind of how that evolved. But at the same token, you know, we still need to have some level of cooperation between the two groups if we are to continue to get freight to move effectively, efficiently, and correctly across this country. We have too many bad actors that are operating on both sides of that coin, the broker and carrier side, that seek to exploit market conditions, lanes, naivete between the two different groups. It's crazy. It has gotten absolutely insane. And now, is it the fact that that there's such low barriers to entry into this industry that has caused that? Is it a matter of greed that has caused that? Who knows? But you know, the fact still remains: it's adversarial today.
Yeah.
And it's transactional instead of relational.
Agree.
That's something that we have to change.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know that there are brokers out on the freight side too that pay a bonus to their dispatchers when they can negotiate much lower rates. And I don't think that's right either, because now you're teaching dispatchers, and this is not I don't know any on the auto side. I'm sure you're out there. But they're paying the dispatchers a bonus when they can actually get on the phone and negotiate the rates much lower. Not much lower, but anything lower.
To be clear, Michelle's talking specifically about the dispatchers that work on the broker side of the coin, not the dispatchers who work on the carrier side. Most people know dispatchers on the carrier side have very specific rules that they are supposed to follow, or they can get fines by FMCSA, assuming FMCSA will actually start issuing fines.
Are you listening?
Whether or not that happens.
Is FMCSA even listening? Oh, and I was going to ask you, Avante, what time? When do I need to be in front of Capitol Hill? Because I'll come out and talk about the broker side of it and be like, yeah, I agree. Let's do this.
Well, it'll be at 9 or 9:30 at the District 9th Court. But also, you know, I'm always for education. So with me, like, you know, I study a lot. And as far as broker transparency, one thing that I've really been intrigued with is, you know, back in 1982, when deregulation first happened in 1980, 2 years after that, broker transparency was actually in favor for the broker. Yellow Freight was the first to ever oppose it in history. And it was because a lot of carriers were doing business direct to shippers, and you would have a handful of brokers that just had a telephone and a good sales pitch that will go in and swindle the shipper and say, "Hey, I got more trucks," which they really didn't. They just had more relationships. We had the actual trucks, and then somehow it flipped. And I'm really curious as to how did it flip? Was it the fact that they got an organization called the TIA that actually helped them flip it, or do you know anything about that, John?
The going theory that I've heard over the years is the fact that thanks to the internet and load boards and whatnot, it's opened up a massive capacity to brokers that brokers wouldn't have unless they had not just a book of business on the sales side, but also a book of business on the carrier side to be able to match to those sales. So I think the internet and the load board age is really
Mm,
what helped to foster all that.
Mhm.
So I don't think there was a specific incident. It's just an evolution that has
mm.
taken place, but it's been an evolution that's been allowed to take place without any kind of intervention, either at the federal or any real level that had any bite,
Yeah, yeah, that goes.
and that's really what's happened across the industry ever since Motor Carrier Act in 1980.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, and that goes back to what Miss Michelle was talking about as far as a low barrier entry. Like, I mean, anybody can get a CDL 4 to 5 weeks. Anybody can become an owner operator without even knowing their cost per mile. I have, and I didn't know it at one point in time. I had to, really sit down and figure it out as well. But you got to know your back end numbers to your operation, because if you don't, you don't really have an operation. You got a Mickey Mouse operation. And if you ask a lot of these cats nowadays, what's your cost per mile? They don't know it. They actually think that, I have to break it down to them like this. And this is what one of my mentors, this is the way he broke it down to me. You cannot put your rent, your mortgage in your operating costs. McDonald's don't put their rent into how much it costs to make a Big Mac. And
Mhm.
that's what a lot of these cats out there that are carriers, that are owner operators, that have their own authority, doing lease purchase, that's what they're doing. So I really think the whole conversation around broker transparency will change in the next couple of years, no matter what, FMCSA or the court rulings, happen to do with it. Because if we start holding carriers accountable, shippers start holding brokers accountable, I feel like this industry will be in a much better rate going forward than it is now.
Yeah, the accountability is huge, and it's not, I agree with that 100%. People need to be held accountable no matter what. Call them out. We all the three of us do it, right? I also think that if people just started operating in the best interest of the humans that are out there, I think a lot of this conversation wouldn't I don't think it would exist. I mean, I could be naive or wrong, but if we had if we just had people working in the best interest of, like I always say, and you guys know this, the synergy that we have to create between everybody, the shipper, the broker, the care. We don't None of us survive without the other one. Let's just, we're all going to be out of a job. If the drivers decided tomorrow to shut down. If the brokers decided to shut down, a lot of drivers wouldn't have loads. And if the
That's
shippers
right.
out there decided we're just going to do it ourselves and go wild, wild west, then we'd all be pretty much out, because a lot of the shippers aren't the greatest at, logistics. I mean, again, let's be
Well,
honest.
well, they've been trained and conditioned over the last 30 years to make sure that they use a freight broker, because a freight broker can solve all their problems for them, and it takes a lot of the liability out of the equation for them. It's possible that Montgomery will change the course of that discussion on the shipper side, not just the broker side. But that still remains to be seen. I mean, we've seen that couple days after the Montgomery decision, Texas ruled in favor of Home Depot, saying that Home Depot wasn't liable in a negligent hiring case as the shipper, because they were in a passive situation. So, it still remains to be seen how much of an impact this is going to have directly on shippers, the whole Montgomery discussion. But there's still a lot that's going to happen that has to be learned, and whether or not transparency is going to play a role. And I think transparency is actually a very small part of the conversation at this point. It's overall a big topic because of what we've gone through for the last 4 years. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a drop in the bucket of what the overall discussion needs to be across the industry to stabilize the industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I think we need to be, is trying to stabilize things as a whole. And transparency overall would be a guiding light to make that happen. But it's a guide. I don't think it's the end. It's the solution. I don't think it's the solution.
Yeah, you said Texas ruled in favor of Home Depot.
Yes.
Yeah. Well. Texas always does their own thing, but at the same token, let's see what happens. You throw a few more nuclear verdicts in there, and see what happens in the future.
Yeah.
Well, Texas is famous for that too. I think it was Texas that sat there and levied that $600 million award against C.H. Robinson.
Yes.
What was it, a month and a half ago? So there's still a lot in the mix, and that is a huge one. I know when we first started talking about Montgomery, everyone's like, oh well, brokers they're going to have to start getting a liability coverage, and as they get liability coverage, they need to make sure they've got enough liability to handle these cases. Oh, it should be about $5 million or $10 million or something along those lines. And then all of a sudden, a court hands out a $600 million award, against C.H. Robinson. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's the arrogance. See, how you gonna put a number on it? Oh, it's gonna be 4 or 5 million. We'll pay that off. All right, okay, we'll see.
Well, it's interesting for C.H. Robinson because C.H. Robinson, if I recall correctly, they are self-insured because they're so damn big. They can be, but as big as they are, how many verdicts like that can they handle? That if they actually have to pay that out, of course they're appealing it. But if they've got to pay out $600 million, and how many court cases are they currently involved in? Can they survive?
They're eating a little bit of humble pie. They're eating a little bit of humble pie right now, ain't they?
That is a lot of humble pie. Let me tell you, that is a huge amount of humble pie, and the rest of the industry is still reeling. Brokers are still trying to sort out, what do we really need to do? What's really defensible? What's really practical in order to deal with these situations? And then at what point do we hit a negligent situation? Especially now that these buzzwords are starting to go away. The it's got to be there overnight, or other forms of coercion. Like I need a strong solo or something along those lines. Those are just comments of coercion. So as long as that coercion goes away, I think a lot of this starts to settle down. But brokers have been using that level of coercion for a long time now. Can they get away from the bad habits?
Yeah. I tell you what, though. I mean, would it cut down on companies like, I hate to say this. Would it cut down on companies like Super Ego?
I don't mind dragging Super Ego's name through the mud.
Well, I'll say this. If we drag Super Ego's name through the mud, we got to drag all of the big fancy mega carriers' name under the mud too, because they're doing the exact same thing Super Ego is doing. They're just doing it on a legal basis.
There's certainly a lot of, how do I put this best? There are plenty of attorneys in this business that can find the loopholes to make everything quote unquote legal in order to get past certain levels of scrutiny. Is it ethical? Hell no. Is it legal?
totally got you.
But certain things like saying strong solo, it has to be there overnight. If you don't get there in time, I'm going to freight guard you. Those kinds of discussions finally are going away. Those things, because that's going to land in instantly a broker in hot water if something goes sideways. Instantly.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see how things continue to evolve. I did not plan on spending the entire hour talking about transparency. I really didn't. But we almost have. Is there anything else that we really need to hit on before we try to start wrapping this up?
I think for me, I'm just gonna, I know that there's been a lot of talk about brokers are bad, kind of like that vibe happening a little bit. But, I think it's really important to distinguish the difference between, like, again, I'm coming from the automotive side of things, right? So I'm not talking pallets, LTL, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's important for any shipper out there. I don't necessarily say they've been brainwashed to work with brokers, but I do know that a broker or a logistics management company, which is a lot different, does bring value. And John, you know this because you work for one. So there is a level of value that is brought to the table with a good company. Because when I have for example, when a driver breaks down and you find out and they're halfway between Michigan and California, I don't have clients that can go, okay, hold on, let me get in the Rolodex of my brain. How do we solve this? They're in like panic mode. They don't know how to send a rescue truck in. They don't know how to, calculate the pay for the first driver and then do a second leg and get it out to where it needs to go. So when you work with the right company who is transparent, authentic, and all the other things, I mean, it's not it's not bad, but you just got to be careful because there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of bad actors and a lot within this entire industry that I wish we could just put them in a salad spinner and push it down and they'd all right to the side. And then you'd have all the good stuff in the middle.
That's an interesting image.
It's like that carnival ride. Remember when you'd get on and it would stuck to the side and you couldn't move? Yeah, it's kind of like that's what I don't know.
Gravitron.
Gravitron. My brain.
Yeah. I did. Boy. Yeah. Otherwise known as the spin and puke for me.
Yeah.
I just don't have the stomach for that kind of thing anymore. So, Avante, what do you think is probably the biggest issue out there that's facing motor carriers and drivers as we move into this new post-Montgomery age?
Cargo theft, freight fraud. Actually, me and you, John, we actually talked about this last time we were together, about updating COIs, for every load. I thought that was a great idea, and I do think that might be coming down the pike. But I would say cargo theft, it continues to rise year after year, week after week, month after month. And, if we don't get a rein on it, pretty soon we're all going to be out of a job. So, for me, I would say, that would be a big subject, to continue to review and keep eyes on. I'm trying to do the best I can as far as, at the school setting, trying to offer different courses, how to critique a bill of lading and, things like that. And I mean, you can really talk about taking pictures in front of your MC and all that. I know freight brokers were doing that. But then we live in the age of AI. Anything can be doctored now. So, those are one of the things that we got to continue to work on step by step. And we have some great people in this industry that are doing that. So I would say that.
Fair. As we hit the top of the hour here, any closing thoughts? Avante, you first.
Well, for me, I don't want freight brokers to be scared of the word broker transparency. I mean, you can see it, me and Miss Michelle were working together. I'm working with some other freight brokers that I've been talking to through the past year that aren't scared of it. And what I mean by that, that are open to negotiation, that are open to talking about it, not necessarily like saying, yeah, I'm all for it, but at least openness creates a conversation.
Hmm.
And that's all we want at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we're not trying to be your enemies. We're trying to truly come together, put our heads together for a common goal, how we all can work together and make this industry better overall for each other. So at the end of the day, we're not your enemy, we're your friends, and we want to have a huge kumbaya, but it takes two to tango. It
It
takes
takes
two to negotiate. So
If the team at Broker Carrier Summit is watching this, I think you got a good panel here for the next Broker Carrier Summit in Houston in October. So just throwing that out there, guys.
I agree.
Michelle, any final thoughts from you?
Exactly what he just said.
Boy, that's blunt to the point. I like it. I like it.
I wouldn't change a thing. I think we're all out here for the same cause and the same reason. And if we love this industry, we just want to see it better. You know, one of the things, Avante, you said in the beginning, and I taught my kids this, is you always leave someplace better than you found it, whether you're at a campsite, somebody's home, wherever it is. And when we're out here trying to make this industry better, when we leave than when we found it, because I'll probably be the first one to leave. I think that's just a common goal. So yeah, exactly what Avante said. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I love this group, and I think that this is a great panel for a lot of things. So
yes.
I'm all for it.
I would wholeheartedly agree. Avante, how can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Oh man, you can find me at avjackson28 on Instagram. I'm huge on there. I'm very active on there. My website, CDL Shorty D for D, and also on YouTube, CDL Shorty 74.
Fantastic. Michelle, how can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Michelle Hutchison. You can find me on Facebook. It's Michelle Bailing Hutchinson, my maiden name. And, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm all over, but honestly, I don't know any of those. I don't know any of those, how I'm signed into any of them. It just happens. Shit just gets out there. So LinkedIn and Facebook are the best way to reach out to me. I'm on there most frequently. I'll scroll Instagram and TikTok, but somehow my stuff gets out there. I don't know what happens. Like the universe goes, here you go.
The universe.
Yeah.
I'm on LinkedIn.
Well, we also have The Voice now.
The Voice. Yes. You can find me on The Voice.
For your new show there with Kiss This Media. I will also go ahead and take the second here to plug my show, Do You Even Freight, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Central. Please be sure to check that out. And Michelle has actually been a guest co-host on that already as well. She saved us on Friday, but I'll save that story for another time. Please be sure to tune in to here on the Lounge Media Group. For tomorrow, you have the Logistics Lounge tomorrow at 4 Central. Be sure to check that out. I don't know who the guest is. I tried reaching out to Pedro to find out who the guest is just so I can mention it, but I don't have it in front of me, so forgive me, Pedro. Also on Thursdays here on the Lounge Media Group, we have the Road Dog Coffee Company podcast. That is at 8 a.m. Central. Be sure to check that out as well. So with that being said, folks, your check is sitting on the table. Be sure to tip out your server, and we will see you next time here at the Tic Toc Diner. Please be sure to like and subscribe to all of our social media, and be sure to visit our merch store at vigilanttransport.com. Until next time, don't let scammers take you for a ride.